Crush him. Hadouken!
Fatality. Welcome, guys, to the Free Your Geek podcast. We've been off for a couple weeks, and now we're here. We have some stuff to do today. The big thing is we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. But before we get into that, I want to introduce a couple people that are here, and they actually have ties to Spider-Man Homecoming. KB is under the weather right now, so KB, get well.
That's probably a lie.
Yeah, probably. He probably just doesn't want to be here, and that's cool. But I also want to introduce my second co-host, the Ned Leeds to my Peter Parker, if you will, the Don.
You did not waste any time before you said a geek statement.
He just throws it right out there.
And then I was going to say, and the Tony Stark to my Peter Parker, because he's been mentoring me. One half of the Whatever Bro podcast, or the Whatever Brothers of the Whatever Bro podcast,
Yep.
Joe Amaral.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Mentored me from their show to my own show, so he's kind of like the Tony Stark to me.
No.
It's great, except I'm not a genius at all.
Yeah, but I mean,
Maybe just as cool, right?
Yeah, just
maybe?
as cool. I would absolutely agree with that.
All right.
I think it'd be pretty cool if they both changed their last names to whatever, so they could actually be the Whatever Bros. That'd be
That
pretty
would be-
awesome.
Joe and
cool.
Scotty, whatever.
Whatever, you know?
Yeah, like the Mario Brothers.
We're on Facebook Live right now too. So hello everybody on Facebook.
What's up?
Yeah.
For those listening to the audio, you don't really care. But I want to start off a couple things before we get into this. Rich Marini is already saying R.I.P. Chester. So for those that don't know, Chester Bennington of Linkin Park committed suicide.
Yeah.
For the that was a kind of a band coming up when I was a teenager and whatnot.
Yeah.
So very, very impactful in my life. That angsty, like, what do you call it? Like almost like a neo metal type of, I don't know what type of genre it is, but yeah, they were they had their detractors. People liked them, people didn't like them, but again, very important for certain people of a certain age during a certain time. So
A lot of that, I don't mean to interrupt,
go
but
for it.
a lot of that music too definitely had that like depressive like undertone to it. So
Yeah.
like something like this happening, and then going back and looking at some of the music that they made, it's like like this is where those feelings were coming from.
Yeah. Was that when we were in high school, you think?
yeah, because I remember actually as my first year of college, I had a speech class, and I did it on Linkin Park.
Nice.
So yeah, it was like around 2000, 1998, 1999, 2000. So yeah, it was right around then. So
Yeah, you actually hit it right on the mark.
yeah, so it's it's sad, but again, there's always help. Not that I wanted to start on a whole down thing, being all down and whatnot, but you're never
Suicide
alone.
hotlines and
yeah,
stuff?
suicide hotline. Feel free to reach out. Don't reach out to your friends, because your friends love you no matter what. So that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna do PC. So I just want to point that out because that's the first thing.
Roping them in.
First
We started
thing Rich
off
said.
with
Okay,
an
let's-
emotional
Yeah,
feel.
We started off, it's just sad because whatever. We're talking about Spider-Man. We're going to be goofing around.
He
but
seems affected by this.
I am. I'm hurting inside. This is how I handle it. Okay. Spoilers. We're going to be talking pretty in depth about Spider-Man Homecoming. It's been out for a couple weeks. So if you haven't seen it, then don't watch this.
Listen,
right
we
now.
gave them plenty of time.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks is sufficient. Like, just get your ass to a movie theater and watch it.
Exactly. And, it's an amazing movie, no pun intended. We're gonna do a final countdown toward the end. Our top 3 favorite villains. We could have discussed our favorite movies, but I think I want to kind of talk about that in the general conversation today.
Yeah.
About that and see what you guys think as it compares to the other Spider-Man movies. But right off the bat, as a standalone Spider-Man film, to see Tom Holland from Captain America: Civil War, had a little cameo there, maybe like 10, 15 minutes of total screen time, to basically carrying his own movie. What did you guys think overall of the movie?
I was impressed with the movie. I was happy to have Spider-Man tie in with everything else. But that was really cool. I like what Marvel's doing. Like, say we use like the Avengers as like a main point or whatever, and like everything's like spreading out from there. Like same thing. Like I like how it ties in with the Netflix series, and like everything's just roping in together. I think they did a great job with Spider-Man too.
Marvel always has a way of turning a movie into, like, if they do a remake, they always turn it better than what it was. Like, and they also have a lot more to work with. Like, they're, for example, using Tony Stark as the creator of Spider-Man's suit. I just think that was a beautiful addition.
Yeah.
So he's got kind of his own Jarvis and all that. So I don't know. I found it kind of cool, but Marvel also has that advantage. They have done so much that they can connect Spider-Man in that way, you know?
Well, I think it's interesting you mentioned that because we'll talk about that for a little bit. And I don't know if I might have talked to you about it. I don't know if I talked to you, but there's rumors going around, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but in Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron, Jarvis gets taken out of Iron Man's suit. He uses another an AI program. I forgot what the name of it is.
Friday?
It might be Friday. Friday. So one of the discs he's going through is a name of Jocasta, who's also a hero similar to the Vision. And in the Vision comic books, Vision and Jocasta get married and have children, 2 androids that are both based on sentient. So thinking about Jarvis, Paul Bettany playing you voicing Jarvis, then playing Vision, and then Jennifer Connelly, his real-life wife, playing Jocasta, who they might have used in Spider-Man's suit because she was the voice. There's rumors going around that it was actually Jocasta, the program he used for Spider-Man's suit. And then that ties husband and wife together in the comic books to the films as well. So
that's one little Easter egg I did not know.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
It's a deep one.
I do like. There were some people that were complaining that why couldn't Spider-Man create his own suit similar to the comics? I wasn't a big I wasn't affected. I wasn't upset that Tony Stark was doing that because they pretty much already showed that from Civil War, Captain America: Civil War, where Tony Stark visits Peter in his Queen's apartment, that he already has this makeshift suit that he's been using.
Yeah.
And it's like he basically says the goggles that he wears helps kind of drown everything out because of his spider sense. So it's not necessarily taking away from any of his power sets. It's just, in my opinion, adding on to the actual power sets. And another point that Kevin Smith made on his podcast was in the comic books, you see a lot of thought bubbles with Spider-Man basically thinking to himself and having a conversation with himself. Like, am I doing the right thing? Will this change anything? To put that other person in the costume for somebody to talk to, it kind of emulates those thought bubble speeches from the comic books where it doesn't make it cheesy or hokey.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That was awesome.
I do like that he makes his own webbing too. Tony had nothing to do with that.
Exactly, and that's another thing. So how do you guys, before we get into how it compares to the other Spider-Man films and how Tom Holland compares to the other Peter Parkers as far as that goes, what did you guys think of the villain and the cast of characters that made up the movie?
I have to say that Keaton was by far the best Spider-Man villain we've got. At least to me,
great.
He's dark. We're starting to get. I don't know. I feel like we're getting what we should be getting out of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? I'm glad that they didn't go with the Green Goblin again. I'm glad we stood away from that.
Keaton had a sinister face too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looks good mad.
Yeah.
Not like Willem Dafoe in the other Spider-Man. I thought that was a nice bad guy. His face, there's a certain look a bad guy needs. I feel like Keaton did that great. And in my head, I thought, oh, Keaton's always kind of been a positive character. He's never been the bad guy. So it was interesting to see.
Yeah, I definitely have to say he was an awesome bad guy.
I really enjoyed, and you and I talked about this kind of off air a few days ago, but the believability of Keaton as the Vulture, as Toombs' character, his backstory, because usually you don't really get the whole why are they behaving like this. You can see it to be the first opening moments of the movie. It does, and to your points, it takes pieces of the Avengers.
Picks up right
Adrian
there.
Toombs' company is picking up the leftover alien tech, and they're turning it in, and then all of a sudden Tony Stark's company comes in and basically swoops in and steals all the business for the most part. Oh, we're taking this over. He's like, well, I just bought a bunch of new trucks and brought on all these other people. These people have families, and it's just kind of this is what drives him to do what he does.
I love that it connected back to the first Avengers, because you hadn't really, in any other Marvel movies, there was never that kickback to Avengers 1. I like it. It was kind of just a rewind saying, all right, well, here's some shit that happened right after that first alien attack. I hadn't seen that before in any other Marvel movie, rewinding like that, so I kind of like that, and I like that it shows that normal people were affected by this, their jobs and,
That's an awesome point.
Absolutely.
Because, they make the references, but they never give you somebody else's point of view
Exactly.
at that time. That's really good.
The only thing they messed up on that's kind of bringing things into question is the timeline. Because I think the events of the Avengers happened in 2012, because I think that's when the first Avengers movie came out.
Yep.
And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, it said 8 years later, which would put it into 2020. So if we take that Avengers happened in 2012 and then this is 8 years later, then
That's true.
It's like, so this events of Spider-Man are happening in 2020. So I think that was kind of a mistake.
Wow, I didn't even think of that.
It was kind of a mistake on the part of the filmmaker, the writer, whatever you want to say. But again, to your points though, this isn't technically a Marvel movie. This is a Sony movie that has the Marvel influence and is working together with Marvel Studios. That's why they were able to use Spider-Man because of the deal they made. Johnny Leathers jumping in. I want to just give a quick shout out to Chris Knight. He says, "What's up, fellas?" Johnny Leathers says it wasn't as good as Spider-Man 3. We'll debate that.
I don't know, Jim, I don't agree with that. It's
Yeah,
a bunch
and
of
John
crap.
Rivera says, "Sup, fellas? Hey, John, how you doing?" Paul Tavares says hello. So, for those of you that watch the show and have shared the last 4 episodes, in honor of Spider-Man, we have a Venom mug here, and we're going to be picking a name of everyone that shared, and I have that prize pack that I'll be mailing over the next couple weeks to one lucky winner.
Wow.
So,
You got prizes here?
oh, we got prizes. Yeah, hey,
Nice.
anything to drive that viewership, man. But we'll be doing that toward the end of the show. So we agree that Keaton did an amazing job as you know,
Beast.
and you know all the other like connections too. Not that it really has any connections, but we all know that for many of us, our first superhero movie was the Batman movie, an '89 Batman where Michael Keaton played Batman. Fast forward to the Christopher Nolan Batmans with Christian Bale, Dark Knight. The whole adage. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Keaton.
And that's Keaton in this movie. So Batman has become the villain. So I just think that's kind of
That is cool.
a cool tie to the Batman movies as well. What about supporting characters? Let's talk about Aunt May, Ned Leeds, Michelle.
Oh, Aunt May. Don't get me started on Aunt May.
Aunt May's a little smoke show.
Oh yeah, she's been in a smoke show for years.
She even in the Tobey Maguire one, she was a real smoke show in that.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Granny.
Oh man, I gotta say though, like how the internet like was up in arms about this girl Zendaya, like
Playing
playing the
Michelle.
What
part.
is it? Zendaya?
Yeah, I don't know.
Zendaya?
yeah,
Is she a
it's-
Nickelodeon girl or something?
Yeah, so
Disney?
like, all crazy about her playing the part. She's not even like our official like Mary Jane. Her name's Michelle. She plays like she doesn't remind me of Mary Jane. They're like,
No.
oh, if her personality matches, that's not Mary Jane
No.
at all. so everything that everyone was saying was right,
Yeah.
except the ignorance behind it.
Well, except at the end where she goes, "Oh, just call me
Call
MJ."
me MJ. Oh my
So it's-
God,
it's
please! I
like-
couldn't even figure out that. That didn't even make sense. For a little bit, I was confused. I thought the other girl who was like flirting with him was MJ. You
Yeah.
know, like.
Do,
But
do you think the movie was, I don't want to sound too bad here, but was it too ethnic? Like
this is a
I
good
feel like
talking
they
point.
fit in every race that they
This
possibly
is a
could.
great talking point.
They
This is a great talking point. But I'll say this. I usually don't have a problem with them using other ethnicities and races to portray other characters. Like Thor is a perfect example. Heimdall.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? In the comic books, he's a white dude. So it's like,
different.
it's Idris Elba. It's Idris Elba and he's
Yeah.
badass. So it's like
I just don't
care.
remember Flash being Indian.
Right,
all.
right. And they
seriously, he's like and he's not even big and jacked.
No,
like
he's
a
not. He's
goof.
overweight.
Yeah, they
Yes.
did
Short.
They did a well, yeah, they
It was
made
silly.
Flash instead of being the bully, they made him like the intellectual equivalent on the decathlon.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah.
That's not the. I don't know. Now that I'm sitting and like openly talking about it, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I was just like, wow.
Oh.
I was just a little surprised, because Flash was still considered this cool guy with a cool car, but he didn't look like your traditional cool
Yeah.
guy. Maybe they're trying to change the norms here.
Well, I think they're trying to I think it's the movie is a symbol of the times we live in the sense that bullies, just for example, back in the 60s when Spider-Man first was, Flash Thompson was this big jock,
Like all-American.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, and he just hated Peter because he was like this geeky, nerdy kid, and that was the catalyst for him to pick on him.
Yeah.
Now they gave it a little bit more of a, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like,
Je ne sais quoi.
yeah, a little, I don't know what.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but it's just, I think it's interesting the way they changed it up a little bit. The love interest, what's her name in the movie? Liz? Is
I
it
don't even
Liz?
know.
I think it is Liz. Yeah.
Because everybody thought it was going to be Liz Allen, and I'm not sure if that was her last name or not.
I would say that she's hot, but I think she plays a high school kid, so that probably wouldn't be. That wouldn't
Handcuffs.
Be politically correct.
Yeah. She's 35, but she's playing a high school kid.
The
so
views and
we can't really
opinions
say it.
shared by one
I wonder
Joe Amaral. On
what is her real age? Do we know?
I have no clue. I can look it up.
Oh God.
But you guys talk more about that while I look it up.
Oh God.
But yeah, the cast was cool. Besides the overkill of ethnicities,
Yeah.
I thought the script was great. There were funny parts throughout the movie. Aunt May was great. I do think at some point Aunt May and Tony Stark might have a little something. Well, that's what I thought.
Pepper will throw a suit
That's
on.
what I thought until Pepper just showed up randomly.
Yeah.
Not to, I mean, again, major spoilers, but
Yeah.
Pepper probably was the biggest surprise to me at the end.
Yeah, so Gwyneth Paltrow made a really cool cameo toward the end of the movie.
I'm wondering if, like, at the end of this, right? Like, when we get to the end of Marvel's Road, if we are literally gonna like get every one of them on screen at once. You know what I mean? Like the wife's girlfriend, like, you know what I mean? Like Natalie Portman, Gwyneth Paltrow, get like all of them. Like, oh wow, we finally accomplished it. Like the world's safe, and like the end ? And
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, there's some stuff going on about that I'll touch upon. But before I talk about, let me talk about that.
How old is she? She's 28.
You're very close.
Awesome. All right.
She was born in 1990, so she just turned 27.
Great. So I'm not.
Bang,
I'm not a
good at
creep
this.
then.
No,
Perfect.
no.
You're not a creep at all. But yeah, so going back to your point about what are they going to do with I think the next two Avengers movies are going to take some players off the board, add some new players. Obviously, Brie Larson's coming in as Captain Marvel. She's going to have her own movie. I believe Chris Evans is at the end of his contract, so we might see
The female
Captain America take off. And we might see
What's
either
the other kid's name? Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. I don't know where he is in his contract, but there's rumors going around that in the comic books we see Winter Soldier take over the guise of Captain America. Then we see the Falcon take over the guise of Captain America.
I wouldn't
so we
want
have
that.
both of those possibilities.
Now that we have, I know it's gonna sound. Oh no, that's Norman Osborn takes the place of Iron Patriot, not Captain.
Wow,
America.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
No, I didn't. I just never knew that. It's crazy.
It's Secret Wars, I think.
It is Secret Wars. It's a comic book series called Secret Wars. And I just want to give a quick shout out to other people on Facebook Live.
Getting a lot of comments today.
Yeah. John Vivera said Ned Leeds was butchered too. From the comic books, absolutely. But what do you guys think of Ned as like the sidekick with the whole? I love the tie
I
to
liked him.
Disney and Marvel with the Star Wars, the Death Star.
That was pretty cool.
There's tons of Star Wars references every time Spider-Man, even in Civil War, where he says, that really, that old movie. So there's a lot of
Damn these young kids.
Yeah.
I like Ned. I thought he was funny. Yet another different
Mexican?
ethnicity.
Did you notice he was eating a burrito in his bed?
Was he Mexican? I couldn't
The
even
views
tell.
and opinions shared by the Don do not reflect those of the For Your Geek podcast.
It was just
I'm going
one
to
of
be saying
those.
that a lot.
It was just one of those things about a movie that slapped me in the face. I just had to bring it up.
I want to give a shout out to Beth too, who's another loyal viewer. She's
Nice.
commenting.
It's good to see the females on the For Your
Yeah.
Geek podcast.
Beth is awesome. I love Beth. Not as much as some other people at the table, but she's awesome. So let's talk about some of the big twists. We see Spider-Man get this suit, which we've already kind of alluded to, where it has this AI, and he's getting used to it. And basically, he finds out it has what they call the training wheels protocol.
That was cool.
So basically, Tony Stark wants him to essentially not be a quote-unquote Avenger and do all these like huge save the world type of missions, but he's like, he even says, can't you be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? And I think that's fantastic because it's a nod to the comic books, and he just basically wants him to stick to Queens and protect Queens, kind of like a vigilante in the hometown type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it's crazy to hear like Tony Stark like wasting someone like Spider-Man like in New York at that time period, because for that time period, like for this whole Marvel thing to work, at this time in New York, Daredevil's doing like all of the other heroes are doing their thing. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, like they're already kind of handling.
But is that at all connected? They've never actually stated it's connected to the movies, have they?
They have.
Okay.
They have. They actually in
It's the first season of Daredevil.
yeah, And in Luke Cage too, they're
Right.
selling the bootleg DVD, so they call it the event.
Right.
The event is like when the
when
whole
the
open.
Chitauri showed up. So yeah, they talk about that in the beginning of Daredevil. About
So the shows have mentioned the movie, but the movies haven't mentioned the shows.
right.
Yeah.
So there's a discrepancy between, and it's I read an article about it a while back, but apparently because Disney owns the rights to the movies and the production of the movies, and Marvel still owns the rights to the television shows, so Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, I think there's basically a disconnect between who's running the television side and the movie side, and they don't see eye to eye, so they don't necessarily integrate them as much, but because it is a shared universe, they keep it connected, and fingers crossed that they bridge whatever gaps they might have and mend some fences and bring it all together, because I would love to see...
I just have this feeling that the TV characters are never going to...
I know. I would look. But how awesome would it be? Like Infinity War comes out, right? And Thanos and all of his team now, because that's something we can talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
Thanos is going to have a team now in Avengers.
Oh yeah.
So, but imagine that, and then somebody's caught in the crossfire, and you just see Luke Cage step up, and somebody tries to stab somebody, and the knife breaks off his impenetrable skin, or Iron Fist does something, or even Daredevil, just seeing him in the background saving people. That'd be kind of cool.
The way that you're describing this brings me back to the Avengers 1 scene, where they're down ground zero, and Cap's just calling it out, you there, you there. Imagine that on a much grander scale, where say we do ever get Fantastic Four back, same way that they're doing Spider-Man, if they could bring Fantastic Four back. There's so much stuff that I'm a big fan of Mr. Fantastic. You know that. Yeah. If you watch, you know that too. There's so much stuff that should be connected in the Marvel universe with him, Stark, and Hank Pym. Not
the Michael Douglas version.
Yeah, the Michael Douglas version. There's so much stuff that they're oh yeah, for instance in Civil War when they're all locked up in that underwater base. That's stuff that Stark didn't invent. That's the joint minds. I don't know. I think it'd be cool if they could rope them in. I don't know.
Well, even during the comic book, they placed him in the negative. Is it negative zone? Is that what Mr. Fantastic created?
Mr. Fantastic made the.
It's not the Phantom Zone is DC. I know. I think it's called the negative zone. But basically, it's like he
that's
discovered
the
this pocket universe.
Yeah.
And that's where they were imprisoning some of the heroes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. People on Facebook, correct me if I'm wrong. But just shout me out in the comments on the podcast.
Do you plan? I'm not gonna bring it up without your permission here. But are you mentioning anything that occurred at D23, like the teaser trailer?
Go for it. This is okay. So spoilers. Man,
I just heard so many crazy, awesome things.
Go for it.
At D23, they showed a teaser trailer for Avengers: Infinity War, and I guess it opened up with the Guardians of the Galaxy flying and Thor landing on their windshield.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I was like, what the hell is this? I guess they bring him into the ship, and they're all like, who the hell is this guy? Mantis you know how Mantis can wake people up? She wakes him up. His line is, who the hell are you? And they're like, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then it cuts to a bunch of other scenes. I can't think of them all right now, but there's one of Loki holding the Tesseract, handing it to someone in this wasteland. And then, there's one with Thanos crushing Thor's head. And then another one of Thanos beating the shit out of Iron Man. These are all just scenes that they showed randomly.
What?
So
yeah.
I've heard some rumors about what might happen. So, again, I'll say spoilers. I'm going to say it all episode. But one of the rumors is that, as we've seen, for those that have seen the trailers for Thor Ragnarok, we see his hammer get destroyed.
Yeah.
So the rumor going around is that Hela, who's going to be the main villain, is going to end up scorching the earth of Asgard using the Soul Gem. And then to our possibly it's hidden in Heimdall. The Soul Gem is going to be taken,
or the hammer, right?
Or the hammer, but I believe it's going to be taken out of one of them. So Thor is going to be using the Tesseract to combat that, and I think that's. And then what's going to happen is I think something's going to happen where he gets stranded in space, and that's when the Guardians pick him up.
Yep.
So it's going to.
I just thought it was crazy that Thor is connecting to Guardians, and then eventually.
Well, they're going to have everybody. They're going to have everybody in for Avengers.
It's just crazy. There was another scene apparently with Doctor Strange, throwing these you know the little circle things he does.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know the name of
Yeah,
them.
he's incantation spells.
Spells,
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
one where he throws them out and Star-Lord jumps on them.
Oh, that's cool. So
Again,
almost like
good
little
setup.
It's-
lily
it's-
pads
yeah.
type
But
thing.
it's difficult because it says this in an article. This is what happened. But like you have trouble envisioning it. Like
Well, you know that footage
You know?
did
Yeah,
end up
flashing
leaking
through.
at some
I
point.
just read it and I was like, Jesus, like, and I heard the crowd reaction. I didn't see the actual clips. There's another one of Avengers Tower like kind of burning.
Well, that's
Moving day.
well, that's funny going back to
Yeah.
Spider-Man because that's one of the other subplots.
Mm-hmm.
Is we see Happy Hogan, John Favreau, coming back and he's cleaning out the old Tony Stark Avengers Tower because they're moving everything to the new Avengers base,
Yep.
and that becomes a plot point of the movie where the Vulture is going to be stealing back some of that Iron Man tech.
Ugh.
And that leads to the big twist of the movie, which I saw maybe about an hour into the movie. I put the 2 and 2 together. Not that I'm trying to pat myself on the back here, but we see the big reveal. It's the reason that it's called Homecoming is not only is Spider-Man homecoming back to the Marvel Universe, it's his homecoming dance where he goes with Liz. He goes to her house to pick her up.
Liz.
The door opens,
Ooh.
and who's her father? But the Vulture.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man already knows him by
Huge
face.
twist there.
And throughout that cab ride, it is so
Cab
not cab ride. Throughout that ride to the dance where the Vulture is driving, where Toombs is driving his daughter, Liz, and Peter Parker to the dance, and Peter knows that it's the Vulture. The Vulture doesn't know Peter is Spider-Man, but then Liz says, "Oh yeah, Peter was at this event." So earlier in the movie, we see them. I believe they're in Washington.
Yeah.
DC
and he
and-
takes off.
and-
Where'd you go in Washington,
Yeah.
Peter?
And because there was a whole emergency with the elevator about to crash, and Spider-Man saves the day, and that's
the
when
Washington Monument.
that's when I connected it because the Vulture was watching that, and you saw him get a concerned look on his face. So I'm like, oh, he knows somebody that's on there
Yeah.
because why would he be so concerned
Yes. Now that you
with
mention
that
it,
news
geez.
article? He was looking at it, and I'm like, then once Peter's going to pick up and he rings the doorbell, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to be the Vulture. He
Man,
opens it, Toombs is there, and then as they're driving, so Liz basically says, "Oh, Peter was in Washington. He knows Spider-Man." And then you can see, and Michael Keaton plays this so well. You can see the
Smart.
wheels
Yep.
turning in his head, and he's like
And he
adding
just
everything up.
looks in the mirror he's
And then
like,
he looks in the rearview mirror at Peter, and then Peter so then he starts grilling Peter.
yeah.
Liz thinks it's just an overprotective father, and then it's
Yeah.
just it's Spider-Man and the Vulture going back and forth. And I just think it was so well done, such a
Uh-huh.
great scene.
It was good.
Yep. That was a total twist for me. I wasn't expecting Keaton to be her dad.
Yeah, it was great. And the other thing I really wanted to mention before we kind of go into unless we want to say anything else about it, but
The mother is Fancy from the Jamie Foxx show.
yes, Garcelle Bouveau, who
Let me just throw this in there.
she's fancy.
Yeah, yeah.
Fancy. She still looks good.
She still looks good. She still looks.
Anyways.
gorgeous. no. But my favorite thing is, we're introduced to a couple of other characters here. We're introduced to 2 Shockers.
Yep.
We see the first one, and he accidentally gets killed by the Vulture because he thought it was an anti-gravity gun or something along those lines, and it
Yeah.
disintegrated him. And then he gave it to Schultz, who is the actual secret identity of the Shocker in the Marvel Universe. And he says, "I guess you're the new Shocker now." So we had him, and then we also saw a gentleman that went by the name. Oh, we didn't. I don't know if he went by the name, but he had. I think it was Matt
Yeah, it was
Gargan.
yeah.
He had a scorpion tattooed
Oh,
on
yeah.
his neck. So we saw maybe half of the Sinister Six, and then I believe it was the Tinkerer. I believe that was.
That's
also
what we
the-
were like kind of stabbing at. Like we thought it
That
would
was
be
the guy who
Tinkerer.
was making the
making all the,
inventions,
all
right?
the
that tech,
weapons.
yeah.
So, yeah, so we saw possibly 4 villains that could comprise a Sinister Six because, again, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, it's not a huge save the world type of battle, alien invasion. It's basically just one guy trying to steal some stuff against Spider-Man. So it's not this huge, epic, drawn out, apocalypse world gonna end battle. It's just basically the small fight between 2 people, and Vulture knows Peter Parker's identity. He gets defeated, and this is another movie where we don't see the villain killed at the end, which I thought was a breath of fresh air because a
Yeah,
lot of the Marvel
totally.
movies, for the most part, all the major villains from Guardians to, Red Skull, you can make a case for that. We don't know what happened with him.
I think Red Skull's gonna be starting to come into light.
Yeah.
I think he's returning. That's always been a theory of mine from the beginning because you never see him die. You see him
No.
get just shot up into space.
And I feel
people
like
assumed he died.
I feel like he's gonna like. I would love for that whole him robbing one of the Iron Man suits and like twerking it all out or whatever. Not literally twerking. I don't know what word to use in that, but a lot of the animated stuff, if they could like tie that in, I think it'd be really great.
That was a combination of tweaking and working. You said twerking.
Yeah.
I like that. We're taking that
Tweak,
phrase
work.
back to tweak and work at the same time.
It's a nerd word now.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that he survives, I thought was awesome.
I feel like Vulture may become a good guy at some point because Peter saved his daughter. Peter also saved him. Peter could have just let him die.
Right.
And also, while in jail, he didn't rat out Peter.
That's a very good point. But I think that's
to say I'm going to do it myself.
That's like keeping it in your back pocket. Like, I have this that I want to do it myself. Nobody else is going to do it. I know his weaknesses now. I know his family. I can find his family. I can find his friends.
So messed up. I want to kill the 17-year-old. You know.
Well, that's another good point. I loved seeing a 15-year-old Peter Parker. I mean, the kid that plays.
It's 15.
He's 15. But I'm saying he's a 20-year-old kid. Tom Holland's a 20-year-old kid. He looks like a high school student, and I love the fact that they're going to focus on him in high school for the first few movies, and I think that's great because I just like saying we'll compare it to the other Spider-Man movies here in a second, but I want to leave with one final scene, and then you guys can say whatever you want about the movie before we compare it to everything else. But there's a whole theme where, again, with the training wheels program, he hacks it. He unlocks all the different capabilities of the suit. Tony Stark takes it away from him, and the whole thing is, if you're nothing without the suit, then you didn't deserve it in the first place.
Awesome.
And then fast forward to the scene where Peter Parker gets buried under all the rubble from the building, and you see him like struggling and trying to get up, and it's just that's the Peter Parker resolve that you read in the comics. Like, all this bad stuff is happening to me. I can't do it. I have to find the inner strength to keep going on and keep doing it.
Now, this sort of happened in Iron Man 3. Again, Iron Man 3 wasn't a great movie, but it was one of those things. Stark had to be tested without the suit in order to realize,
I love that scene.
Yeah, and I think they
You're
took...
an inventor. Invent things.
Exactly. And I think they took that and they sort of applied it. He applied that lesson that he learned to Peter. So I don't know why that's the first thing I thought of when he said, if you're nothing without the suit, and you don't deserve it.
Well, that's the duality of what you can be, because you can talk about it being from the character of Peter Parker. If you need to rely on the suit to do this, then I was wrong to pick you in this role to give you this capability. But to your point, it could also be more of a look inside the character of Tony Stark, where Iron Man 3, where he's the inventor, and like you just mentioned, you're an inventor, invent things, almost a reflection on him if you're nothing without the suit, because he is using his intellect. He knows what it's like to be that. So it's a really cool look at both of the characters of Tony Stark and Spider-Man, and you can kind of apply it to either one of them, and it's really, really cool.
Yep.
That being said, any final thoughts before we compare it to...
Look, like... For real, I don't even want to get the snowball rolling, but there was a lot of cool little things that would drop when they were talking about like Iron Man's new shield. Like they threw like this one part where I guess he's like, "Oh no, like stay out of there. This is where Cap's new shield is, and so's new weapon, and Vision's new thing or whatever." I thought that was pretty cool.
Which part was this? Maybe I gotta watch it again.
No, this was I don't know if it was like pre-moving day or if it was a discussion between like Tony and Peter or whatever. But yeah,
they were just talking about
that
the
in there.
inventory.
Yeah, or like things that they're like.
It's like an R&D. It's like an R&D room or something, like research and development type thing. Yeah, no, and it's cool because again, we could use that as a jumping off point. So when we go to the next Avengers movie, and there's all kinds of new.
I can almost guarantee that by the time we do get to like that last like hurrah with Marvel, we're gonna see the Scarlet Spider suit, where like the one that Tony Stark really invented, like as far as all that stuff
with
goes.
all the arms coming out of the back and stuff.
The lasers. And
Oh wow.
The little kid ends up using it.
Yeah.
In the other universe.
Yeah.
I did love that the suit reveal at the end. That thing was nice.
Yes. So basically, after the conclusion of the movie, they go into Avengers Tower. Basically, Stark essentially offers him a new suit, a new position. Like, hey, welcome to the team. And by this point, Spider-Man's like, no, I kind of want to be like that symbol just for my hometown, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I like the fact that he's like, thanks, but no thanks, Mr. Stark. And he's like, he thinks it was like a test and whatever. And he's like, oh, I get the crowd back here waiting to talk to you as the newest member. And he, Peter's like, was this a test? And he's like, yeah, you passed. And then that's when Pepper comes out. I was like, I have everybody waiting. What's going on? That was a great little misdirect. I thought that was cool.
Oh yeah.
I love how Beth has my back when they were loading the plane with all of like the other stuff that was being moved out.
Beth knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Beth is awesome. We love Beth, like I said. But let's compare, since we have about a half an hour left, let's compare this movie to the other movies. How does it rank in your overall Spider-Man? So to recap, we have the Tobey Maguire, so Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. Then we have the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. The first three movies deal with Mary Jane as the love interest. The second set of movies deal with Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone. Villains, we have the first trilogy. We have Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus in the second movie. Then we have Venom and Sandman in the third movie. Then we have the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man 1.
You forget the Hobgoblin.
The Hobgoblin, thank you. I tried to forget about that. And then Electro in the... And then we have this one. How does it compare overall? Do you think it's up toward the top, or does it rank lower than most? Or
this is by far the best Spider-Man movie.
I agree.
And it's because that they can tie in with Marvel.
Yeah, that's convenient.
Like I don't know, if it didn't have any tie-ins, imagine this movie without like the Tony Stark or any of the other Marvel references.
Yep.
It'd be a good movie because Michael Keaton did a great job. The kid did a great job doing Spider-Man. But what made this movie so great is now I know that Spider-Man can be where any of those other superheroes are. You know what I mean? Like in the next Doctor Strange movie, I know that Doctor Strange and Spider-Man have like come in contact with each other and help each other on numerous occasions. So it's good to know that that can tie in.
Spider-Man and Hulk.
Spider-Man and Hulk. Yeah. I want to see Hulk go. Oh God. I don't own many comic books at all. Like I probably own 5, but one of them I do have is like the Wolverine versus Hulk and Spider-Man versus Hulk comics. Actually, from that point, you mind if I pick up and I'll go for my points?
Go for it.
With these movies, right, like all of these different movies, my first experience with Spider-Man, because I don't collect comics now and I didn't when I was younger, was the 1990s. We had the animated series, and that's where I based I loved it right away. I based everything off that. I was an action figure guy growing up, so I had tons of
the Spider-Man cartoon?
Yeah. That's like the 90s. It was just like, Spider-Man animated.
Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Batman. There was an Iron Man cartoon too.
It's crazy. They did have all of them.
Yeah.
And now it's like...
But I would definitely say like the standouts would be the top 3 would be Batman, X-Men, and then the Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
So for me, that Spider-Man series picked up. He wasn't in high school. You get the origin story kind of in like the opening credits of the show. So when I saw that first Tobey Maguire movie and I only got that little bit of him in high school, I was completely satisfied. And on top of it, I think Tobey Maguire did a great job with like...
He played the part great, yeah.
And if that stupid dancing scene was that everyone loves to destroy, I
think it was interesting.
I love that movie. They shouldn't have made him like get that full of himself. They should have made him more aggressive and like... They should have showed that side of what Venom does to you. That whole, like, he's a alpha... Alpha males do that walking down the street, like, hey!
Well, this is why I like this. This is why I like this, because Peter Parker, for all of his, superpowers and his moral compass, he's a nerd. He's a geek. So when he's kind of, like, full of himself, he's still nerdy, and it's so geeky and dumb that it works for his character as Peter Parker.
I thought the Venom substance that got on him turned him into like a goth.
Yeah,
yes.
More of a goth.
Yes.
Goth kid.
His hair was in his eyes.
Yeah, he was like a metrosexual goth. Like that's
dressed in all black.
Yeah.
You any of you guys watch South Park? Because I'm going to say conformist.
Oh man, the plants make you do that right there.
So Spider-Man 3.
So I even love that. The fact that for the most part at that point we've only had 2 Spider-Man movies. There was no one ever there to help Spider-Man. Seeing Spider-Man put in a scenario where he's going to fight Sandman and Venom, and we've seen that was insane. And then his boy comes to his help. That was the best.
Yep.
I don't even care. So many people destroy that movie, but when he looks at Harry and he's like, Harry, they gotta. and then next thing you know, it looks like Harry's gonna leave him out there hanging. Then you just see the
I agree.
boom boom.
But I also I think they've rushed it too much. In my
I
opinion.
agree.
I think because he was in that same movie, he was trying to blackmail Mary Jane and do all this stuff, and he was like treating her like because he wanted to get back at Peter.
Yeah.
Because they used the whole. So all right, so I'll say my piece real quick on Spider-Man 3. Why I have a problem with it. I didn't think it was an awful movie. There were two things though: the fact that he became the Hobgoblin, and I'm totally cool with that. He wanted revenge for his father's death, and all this other stuff. Gets bumped on the head. They do the whole amnesia story, whatever. Then he starts remembering. He starts tormenting Mary Jane, going after Peter. He wants revenge. This whole thing, and then Peter goes to him and says, "They got Mary Jane. They got this whole thing." And then it's all of a sudden, like you said, at the last second, they didn't show any of the turmoil.
Time out.
But this is why, because I know where you're gonna go with this. So go ahead.
All right, so if you do know, you probably do know, but when Peter completely beats him and just leaves him there, and then him and his after Peter leaves, his butler has
That's what I have a problem with.
You have the problem with the butler having that?
So do you remember this, Joe?
I do.
Okay, so let's.
It's like, by the way.
Yeah, logically speaking, if you are like, I want to get revenge on Spider-Man, and your butler already knows this, then you go through this amnesia period, then you get revenge again, and then he goes, by the way, sir, it was his own glider that killed him. Why didn't you say that in the beginning? Why didn't you say that in the beginning of the movie? And
bro, he's 70. He's got Alzheimer's. He drinks every day. He hates him.
I do like how the butler just spraying it on him.
Yeah, they call that the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Where it's basically like, here's like the piece where it's going to tie it all together because here's the change that you need. You need some character to just be like, okay.
Oh, your hands look cold. You know what? I've had these extra gloves for hours.
That's a great reference. I'm not going to even mention what movie that's from.
Oh, man.
If you don't get that, you're
He was
done.
like, my hands are starting to get sweaty. Here you go.
You've had second set of gloves.
This whole time.
I'm going to be I would say out of every Spider-Man movie, I've not liked one, and it was the first Andrew Garfield movie. I didn't like the Lizard as a villain. This is what I would like. I would like the reference of the Lizard, or I'd like maybe a 15-minute Lizard part of a movie, so we know that the character's established, and we can bring him in at a later part because we know the relationship they have. I like when the Lizard regains control of his mind and is able to help Spider-Man out, which has happened. I don't know if comics, but I know it's happened in the cartoon series many times.
I liked Spider-Man 1 and 2. The one with Doc Ock I thought was great. I don't know why I love that one.
No, it's
they
close.
did a great job with his
tentacles.
tentacles. It was just cool. I didn't like the third one, and then I disliked both Amazing Spider-Man movies. Jamie Foxx as what was he?
Electro.
Man,
He was the worst part of that
Okay,
movie.
so I'll do mine first. I'll rank. I'll go Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, Homecoming.
Yep.
Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's
probably mine.
That's how I'd rank them, roughly. I'd put Homecoming neck and neck just because I think Spider-Man 2 was close to a perfect superhero movie you can get. Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, amazing actor too.
Topher Grace as Venom was so sad to me. I did not want
Eric Foreman
playing
it
Venom.
was tough.
It was weird
need a
because
tough guy to do
I
that.
remember Eddie Brock being almost he's now your Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Peter Parker's not in high school anymore, so now Flash Gordon's done. Now we have Eddie Brock taking the role of that.
Oh, we'll talk about Eddie Brock.
All right.
We'll talk
We'll
about
talk
Eddie Brock.
about Eddie Brock.
But how about you, Don? Before we get into our favorite segment, how would you rank the movies and how would you compare?
Homecoming because of how it can tie into everything. Definitely Spider-Man 2 because actually the whoever the actor is, it's not even important, but the guy who played Doc Ock made that movie incredible.
Alfred Molina, right?
Yep.
Is that what
Yep, Alfred Molina.
All right, so you guys know. After that, I'd have to go Spider-Man. I'd go Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1. And I think that's all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The power of friendship coming through, and you know what? Spider-Man 3 is the best one. If you could tie that one into the Marvel
I don't
universe,
know.
I'm telling you.
I can't vouch for
Yeah,
that.
it's
We'll
an
cut the
alternate,
dancing.
It's an alternate reality.
We'll cut that dancing right out. That's
Please
it.
do.
Oh Oh man.
They use the Tesseract to escape that world and go somewhere to our moon.
Now tell me this though, you guys wouldn't like to see a movie where Spider-Man teams up with Venom to go up against Carnage?
That would be
Oh,
amazing.
absolutely. That'd be
That
great.
would be amazing. But
Depending on who they cast for Venom.
But listen, what if Venom was Topher?
I'll never watch it. I'll
but
never
here
watch
we
it.
go. We got at least another 3 to 4 movies with Tom Holland as Spider-Man
We do.
that we're going to see.
There's going to be a shit ton of Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. So I guarantee you we're going to see Venom. We will definitely see Carnage. They're doing
I'd love to see him team
a
up
Venom
though.
movie. Speaking of Venom, before we get into the final countdown, Joe, do you want to draw our winner for our contest?
Sure. Where do I draw? Oh,
Well,
right.
I'm gonna. I have our Venom cup here. I'm gonna just.
All right.
All the names out.
I'm just choosing one.
Just choose one, and
We'd
we'll see.
like to thank the
These are all the
7 people who shared over the
Well,
past
I only
4
put
weeks.
if they shared it, I only put
All
their name in
right.
one.
Let's see. And the winner is
Let's see.
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams
Paul
from
Williams.
Wilchester, New
I don't
England.
know what the number
That's,
is.
that's episode 45. So
Ah.
Paul's a buddy of mine who has his own podcast called the Bats, Bows, and Books podcast. So check it out. So Paul, I'm going to be sending you an email within the next few weeks to get your shirt size and address, and I'll be mailing you a package.
What's in the package? I'm curious.
Well, we have some Wonder Woman comics. We have a Vulture and Spider-Man pop figures. We have what else did I put in there? What were some of the other big movies? Guardians of the Galaxy, a couple of Guardians of the Galaxy, keychains, a couple of plush toys, Deadpool, I believe, Batman. Just different cool things, celebrate our geekdom. And so, Paul, if you're watching this, it's going to be coming your way. That being said, let's get into our... anything else you want to add before we...
No.
Okay. Let's get into our favorite segment. We call it
Final countdown.
The Final Countdown.
It's the final countdown. The final countdown.
So for this edition of The Final Countdown, we're going to take our top 3 favorite Spider-Man villains.
Okay.
We're going to start with number 3, go through our third pick, then our second pick, and our first pick. Don, do you want to start us off?
Yes.
Okay, with your number 3, sir.
So this is strictly cartoon. At first I was gonna go like one cartoon, one video game.
Yep.
I'm just gonna just.
I think I'm going cartoon too.
Wow.
Do you
All right.
guys remember?
I'll explain. Yeah.
I want to say his name is Alistair Smythe.
Alistair Smythe.
Alistair Smythe.
Yes.
He's the one who made all like the spider bots and all stuff
Yep.
like that for the Kingpin.
Correct.
I loved him as a character. I loved when they ended up mutating him into like the super freak Smythe, and he could shoot lasers out of the tops. He comes into play way in the end when like the Watcher pulls Spider-Man and some X-Men and makes the big. If you guys have never seen that, I don't even want to ruin that, so never mind. There's a big like joining at the end of the Spider-Man series of a lot of awesome guys, but Smythe, his tech is just he's right up there with our Starks and our Reed Richards. Yeah, like I don't
So
know.
I'm pulling it up on the monitor
Nice.
over here.
So yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, he's the one who makes all like the like high tech stuff for Kingpin and Kingpin's goons, and he ends up you can tell he hates the Kingpin. Oh, what did he do to his father?
It's been so
Oh yeah,
long
never
since
mind,
I've
never
seen that
mind, never
cartoon.
mind. But anyway, you guys know who I'm talking about. He's a good Spider-Man villain.
You know what it's akin to is if anybody watched the old Ninja Turtles cartoon, it was kind of like the Baxter Stockman where he was
Oh yeah.
fly guy?
The little
and
fly
then he
guy.
turned
Yeah.
into a fly.
Nice. Yes. Actually, that's perfect.
So that's a good. So that's your number.
Yeah, that's
3.
my number 3.
Joe, how about you?
My 3 is the Shocker. Now that's the guy who shoots out like bolts. He's yellow.
Correct. He's
in
got
the-
he looks like a quilt.
Yes, I just thought. Now I liked him in the cartoon. I just thought he looked so badass in the cartoon. So that's my number 3. He was just to me the most intimidating. Every time he was on, I was kind of like, oh man,
was
he's gonna
awesome.
kick Spider-Man's ass right
Yeah.
now.
It's really cool when you see like different villains, like and the villains have almost like an elemental power set. And I should kind of led with this, and I didn't introduce this. Next to Batman and maybe the Flash, I think Spider-Man has the best gallery of villains, especially on the Marvel side. I think he's got the best. You can make an argument for the X-Men having like a whole, but like as far as like villains, you
For a single hero, I would definitely say that Spider-Man has got the coolest set of villains.
I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
there's tons.
Yeah.
There's literally.
They're cool visually, and their powers are.
There's at least
cool.
15 I can name off the top of my head right now that like I think would be like amazing villains for Spider-Man. You know, from both a moral and an ethical standpoint as well as a power standpoint.
Yeah.
But Shocker again, a great one. So I
Like
just want to say
Shocker.
because there's. I don't want to give anything away, but there's a villain that controls fire. There's a villain that controls water. We have a villain that controls
There's
electricity.
actually
and
multiple. We got Electro.
as well. So my number 3, and we kind of alluded to him a little earlier, is the Eddie Brock version of Venom, created by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane. I just kind of liked how basically my character, this is more of the comic book version. This is where I pulled my villains from, but just to have Eddie Brock say, okay, he's a reporter, he's a journalist. He says this, I'm exposing this serial killer. Spider-Man catches the real serial killer, and then basically Eddie Brock hates Spider-Man for ruining and disgracing his career. Come to find out, Spider-Man, the symbiote, is trying to bond to him. He gets rid of the suit. Same time that Eddie Brock is ready to commit suicide, and it kind of bonds with him, and they both bear hatred for Spider-Man.
Yep.
Now he knows all the Spider-Man secrets. He can sneak up on Spider-Man without activating the spider sense because the symbiote bonded to Spider-Man. It has basically an imprint of his powers, and it knows how to block those powers. So it's just a really good antithesis to Spider-Man back and forth. So that's my number 3, Venom.
That's awesome.
Moving on to number 2.
Number 2, back to the cartoon is Michael Morbius, like the vampire,
The living vampire.
the living vampire. He's shown up so many times in that animated series, and I was always happy to see because then he would pull Blade in. We'd get Blade teaming up with Spider-Man. A thing when I was just coming up, like thinking of him as a character, I was realizing that a lot of Spider-Man's villains have no negative intentions when they begin. He's trying to come up with a serum that will cure some blood virus thing. Doc Ock is trying to make cold fusion. Their first things that they try to do is make something better. They fail, and then they realize, oh well, if I want to do this again, I need money, and all that craziness ends up happening. But he's an awesome character. I know that they actually do have Count Dracula in the Marvel universe as an enemy. But I like Morbius better.
He's not necessarily a vampire.
No, he uses his hands, the suction cups in his hands, to drain your life force, not your blood.
Oh, wow.
Your
Now
life
that I'm looking
force.
at him, I remember him from the cartoon.
Oh, dude, I'd
Yeah,
sit and eat
that's-
Cocoa
Wow.
Puffs
I
and
wish I
just
forgot
watch
about this
for
guy.
days.
Yeah, that's him in the comics.
Jesus.
So obviously it's a little bit more intense
Yeah, that's
because they wanted to keep it for a kid's show.
Yep.
But that's a great number 2.
My number 2, I would say Doc Ock, but to me there were 2 different versions. The movie version was a good guy, it seemed like, and he just he became desperate and depressed. But the cartoon version seemed a little more sinister. But I would stick him at number 2. I just love the tentacles. I love that he's also a smart guy.
I like how
He
you
al-
said he's sinister, no pun intended, because he was the leader of the Sinister Six for a while.
See, I wasn't thinking that. I'm not
That's
that geeky, but that's my number 2, Doc Ock.
That's a great number 2. My number 2 is, I don't know if he's going to be on your list, but he was in the cartoon, but he had a great storyline. It's Kraven the Hunter.
Craven's great.
Kraven the
wasn't.
Hunter. So he's, I'll pull up a picture
Yeah, I
for you in
want
a
to see
second.
a picture of that
But
guy.
he was created by J.M. De Matisse and Mike Zeck in 1987. He's basically this master hunter, and he sees Spider-Man as the ultimate prey to hunt. And then you have the storyline Kraven's Last Hunt, where basically he kills Spider-Man, buries him, takes Spider-Man's suit, and then goes around fighting crime, showing that he can be a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man can. Spider-Man was only shot with a tranq gun because he buried him alive. So with spider sense, kept him alive. He dug himself out, ended up defeating him, and then Kraven ended up killing himself, proving his point that I already proved that I was better than you. I already proved that I could hunt and get you if I wanted to. I'm done with you. And I'll pull up a picture right there. But
Suicide in the comics.
that's my number 2. And Joe, when I pull up the picture, you're gonna laugh at the cheesiness of his costume.
I don't remember this guy. Nope.
But
Nice tights.
yeah, he's got the
Yeah, I
here's-
don't remember him.
Here's the comic
Was
version.
he in the cartoons?
I think he was in the some of the cartoons. I don't know if he was in the '90s cartoon, but he's another.
Oh, he definitely was.
Was he?
Craven.
I don't remember this guy. I remember the vampire dude.
A fun fact: he's the half brother of the Chameleon in
Oh, wow.
the Spider-Man universe. So moving on to number one, and also if you wanted to give any honorable mentions, because I totally forgot to do that off the top of the cup, but feel free to do that too.
I'm gonna give my number one spot. Like this person could be an honorable mention on like anybody's list, but I've seen a few good episodes of Spider-Man going up against Mysterio, and I mean like almost all of Spider-Man's bad guys, like you were saying, like we have like the elemental ones, we have the tech guys. Mysterio just like played. I mean, yes, all of his stuff comes through tech, but he plays such mind games with Spider-Man. Knows how to get in his head and just like wreaks havoc. You know. Like I said, like I'm sure there's much better villains on there. I didn't want to go cookie cutter. I tried to do like my best to. But Mysterio's great, man. I had an awesome action figure of Mysterio.
Is that your number one or honorable mention?
No, that's my number one.
Okay.
That's my number one.
I'm gonna go with honorable mention. Harry Osborn's dad, Norman, is it?
Norman
Is
Osborn,
that
yeah.
was he the Green Goblin?
He was the Green Goblin.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm gonna honorable mention say Green Goblin. I don't know. I just like that character. It was a little thinking back on it. It was kind of cheesy, and he like the whole voice thing. He just tried sounding. I don't know. My favorite though, Venom. It's always been Venom. He looks cool. He looks stronger than Spider-Man. I don't know. There's just something awesome about him that I've always loved.
It's to your point and what we talked about. If Spider-Man was evil and he abused his powers, the symbiote with the hate and Spider-Man's powers. Yeah,
I just wish the movie would have captured that better. There's still time to, and they're supposed to have a Spider-Man with a Venom in it, right?
correct. Or they're doing a solo Venom movie, I believe. So
Gotcha.
we'll see how that.
Yeah,
comes
just
to
get that Topher Grace memory out of my head.
Yeah, that bitter taste in your mouth. Okay, I got two honorable mentions, and actually, it was two that you guys just mentioned. Green Goblin, I think, is a great villain. He's, if you were to compare Spider-Man to Batman, he's essentially the Joker to Spider-Man as the Joker is to Batman. I just think he's always had his hand. Once he discovered Peter Parker's Spider-Man, he was always in the background of Peter Parker's life, even if it's like something's going wrong on a personal level. Norman Osborn's got his handprints all on that, and he's kind of weeding his way in there and trying to make his life miserable. The other point you want to make, I was thinking from a movie standpoint, I would love to see Mysterio. I actually had an idea for, rather than Spider-Man 3, my, if you want to call it fan fiction, Mary Jane finally becomes a successful actress. You have the special effects guy, Quentin Beck, I think it is. That's
Gets obsessed with her.
Becomes obsessed with her. He's the special effects guy, becomes Mysterio, and basically you would force Spider-Man not just to use his webs, but when he creates all these illusions, he'd need to rely on a spider sense and I just think that'd be a cool story. Hopefully we'll see that in the future with these new Spider-Man movies. But my number one, go to my list right here.
Drum roll.
We've already talked about him ad nauseum, but I will just say he was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Dr. Octopus. I just like the fact that,
good choice.
to your point, like the movie version with Alfred Molina was amazing, but the comic book version, just this guy that's like, I am so smart. Like he's kind of got almost this ethical code where he won't go too far in the comic books. And we kind of see that Dan Slott, I know you don't read it, but have you ever read Superior Spider-Man?
No.
Okay, if you're ever looking to pick some stuff up, and I might even have some, I'll let you borrow it. But basically, after all the use of him using his tentacles and all the stuff he's gone through, Doc Ock's body is deteriorating, and he's created all these octo robots that go around and like kind of like the spider bots from the so Spider-Man actually uses this headset to control him because that's what Doc Ock uses. Unbeknownst to him, Dr. Octopus programmed his own brainwaves into this headset. So once he puts it on, as Doc Ock's body is dying, he puts his own consciousness into Peter Parker's body and erases Peter Parker's mind and becomes Spider-Man for a year. Yeah. Because this was right before, I think, one of the Amazing Spider-Mans came out with the Andrew Garfield movie. But basically, Dan Slott wrote this whole thing. As Doc Ock is erasing Peter Parker, he relives Uncle Ben dying and all the different tragedies that Peter Parker's had to endure. Yeah. And that coupled with his like air of superiority, he's like, I'm not going to use these powers for my own benefit. You've taught me that I need to be responsible with these powers, but I'm smarter than you and I'm better than you. I'm going to be no longer an amazing Spider-Man, but a superior Spider-Man.
Oh.
And it's a full, like, he just basically, he starts writing the wrong, he goes back to school because Peter Parker never got his PhD in school.
Yeah.
He goes back, he opens up his own tech company, starts creating all these cool gadgets to help humanity, and he's being a Spider-Man on the side. And all the while, Peter Parker's consciousness is still in the back of the mind, like fighting Doc Ock. It's just such a great story. So definitely check it out.
Just jumping in, I meant to say this earlier. John Viveris just reminded me. Tom Hardy cast as Venom. That's the rumor.
That's the rumor.
I heard the same rumor, so who knows if it's true, but that would be very cool if he was Venom.
I can't do the voice.
You think darkness is your ally?
That'd be so good. So good. Yeah, so anything else to say before we get out of here? Anything else you want to plug?
No.
I mean,
the Whatever Bro podcast, you know.
You don't get to see me.
Every
I'm
Monday,
off to the side over
7
here.
p.m. If you
doing
get a
the sound.
chance.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, they check out their latest episode with
Tara Winterhalter.
Booty Yoga
Master Pro.
Yeah. So
Thanks,
she's opening
thanks
a new
for the shameless plug.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
And thank you to our sponsor, which I should have done in the beginning, Pachico's Furniture. You see they have moving services. Call them.
Perving.
Yeah, they're on Bedford Street
Is
in
that,
Fall
is
River.
that perving while you're moving?
Yeah.
Like scoping out.
It's a moving
they're not
pervert.
like that. No, not at all. But thank you to Pachico's Furniture, fine sponsor of the show. They've been sponsoring us since the beginning. Don, anything else you want to plug?
Watch Game of Thrones. So if
Yes.
I bump into you, we can talk about it.
Yes, we did our last show, which was like almost a month ago.
Whoa.
Wow, really?
Almost a month ago. It was like 3 weeks ago. I think it was
yeah.
like end of June. We were kind of previewing Game of Thrones. Season 7 premiere happened last Sunday. The first 5 minutes, in my opinion, are amazing.
Game of Thrones is huge, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one episode, but
I
hear
we'll get
great
you into it.
things.
We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some stuff. Yeah, Game of Thrones is amazing. You see us, in the comments. Shoot us a message. Talk about it. That's cool. Check out our Facebook page if you're listening to the audio version. If you're watching us on Facebook Live right now, you know where to go. But every Wednesday we do covers of the week. KB does Marvel. I do DC. Check out our Instagram page, For Your Geek on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter. For Your Geek
Twitter.
For Your Geek on Twitter. Jfree the Geek, JFREE the Geek. .com. That's my website. I put everything there as well. We have Free Your Geek Gaming, I believe, on Twitch, which Kevin needs to get in touch with you because I have no clue what's going on with that.
We have no time.
We don't have any time. We don't have any time, but we do have time for our catchphrases before we get out of here. So I'd like to thank
You
Joe
have a
again.
catchphrase, huh?
We have our catchphrases. Joe's been here, I think, like 5 times now. I don't know, but Joe's our stalwart. He's like the 4th member of our team now at this point.
I try to be.
Anytime,
Whenever
so
I can
we'll see him.
contribute.
We'll see him again with Thor Ragnarok, which is so we won't see
Is
Joe
that
again.
the next
till-
one?
Yeah, probably.
So November.
November. So you guys,
See you
you
in
guys
November.
got like 3 months. Do you want to hit him with the catchphrases?
Start the weekend with your geek friends and get your geek on.
Later, folks.
Yeah, what they said.
Get it.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.